Oh man, we talk about fasting as a tool for reversing diabetes, for improving metabolic health, and to set you up for metabolic success. And we talk about the things that we should eat prior to fasting. We talk about things that we shouldn't eat during fasting. But what are some things that we should avoid as we get into the fasting? That's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Hey, this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health and your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new year, new you, I'm talking to adults with type 2 diabetes who want to reverse their diabetes. And that's what we do here on the show. You have caught me just a little bit over 48 hours of fasting in this week's 72-hour fast. And we're going to be doing a check-in here in just a minute. You know how we do it. We've got our monitors. I got my monitors over here. We're going to be taking a look at what my blood sugars are. And then right below that is my Dexcom Clarity Report that we're going to look at here in just a minute. And just want to be I am just want to be. I am excited about the fact that you are here. So if you're out there, wherever you're watching us from Twitter or Twitch, LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, wherever you find yourself right now, we welcome you. Go ahead and say hi. Drop that in the chat, and we'll be happy to say hello. If you are new, go ahead and put new in the comments because I'd love to welcome you with some music and a hand clap. And let you know that I'm happy that you're here. And if you have questions as we go through the show, go ahead and drop those in the comments as well with a Q in front of them so that we know that that is a question that we need to get to. As always, I like to start out by doing a check-in so that you know where I am, how I'm feeling. These are the places where people will have their most biggest challenges. And so we're going to go through that. And then later on, we're going to come back as we do our review, like we do here on Fridays, do our review of fasting. We'll talk a little bit more about some of these components as well. But let's go ahead and let's do our check-in. And I want to talk about how I'm feeling physically, mentally, and emotionally. These are the components. As you know, fasting is not just a physical abstinence. There's also a mental part of it. There is an emotional part of it. And it is important how we deal with those as we get into the fast. They will dictate how we are during the fast. So right now I'm feeling a little bit tired. I'm not feeling low energy. I'm feeling tired because I'm up late. I've been preparing for a trip that we're taking. And just that process is making me feel a bit tired. But in terms of my energy level, as it relates to other things that I'm doing, I think I'm doing well. So I'm not feeling lightheaded, dizzy, sweaty, no palpitations, all those things that sometimes will be associated with blood sugar, or sometimes we'll feel that during the transition between when the body is burning sugar or glucose and when it's burning ketones, right? So sometimes you'll feel that as a dip. And if I've not done a good job of preparing for the fast, that is resting, then I will feel that in a more pronounced way. Okay, so that is how I'm feeling physically. Mentally, I'm not feeling sluggish. I'm not feeling dull. I'm not feeling as though I'm in a fog or cloudy. Those are things people will feel as well, particularly as I mentioned, if they're not prepared, if they've not done a good job of getting into the fast. That can derail the fast, upset the fast, and the way you prepare for the fast really is important as you get into the fast itself. We'll mention that again several times as we get into the show. And then emotionally, I am preparing to go on a trip, and so it's our family annual trip, and I'm excited about that. So emotionally, I'm feeling pumped. I'm feeling excited. There's no sadness. There's no depression. There's none of that right now. I'm just anticipating hanging out with my family at the beach. Yeah. If you guys want to come on. Okay. So that's our check-in for this episode. So physically, mentally, and emotionally, how I'm feeling. Once again, these are the places where people can have their most challenge or more challenges. And so we're going to make sure that we're doing a good job of monitoring this. As always, monitoring your body, monitoring what your body's saying to you, very, very important. Okay. And so now let's hop over and let's take a look at this guy. And so I've got my monitors over here. As you know, I have a Keto Mojo, which gives me both a glucose and it also gives me ketones. And then I've got a Contour over here that gives me blood sugars. And so let's go ahead and then on the screen, you'll see this is my Libre. My Libre says that my blood sugar right now is 79. And this is at a little bit over, well, actually 49, so 50 hours maybe right now, okay? And then my Dexcom right now is saying 95. So 79, well, yeah, 79 for the Libre and 95 for the Dexcom. So let's go ahead and let's take a look and see what my my monitors here are going to say. So let's go ahead and get a strip out for the Contour. Get that in there. And then we'll get a strip out for the Keto Mojo. And for the Keto Mojo, I always start with blood sugar. So let's go ahead and let's do that right now. While I do that, though, if you think you know what my ketones are going to be, go ahead and drop those in the chat. Like I said, a little bit over, let's see, what do we, 48? It's about 50 hours right now. Okay, so there we are. Boom, 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 boom. And let's grab a Lancet out of our little box here. And these are spring-loaded. They're one use, so I'm going to twist off the top. Right there. And let's go ahead and when I press this lever, then the Lancet will come through this hole. It will give me a poke in the finger, and then hopefully we get a drop of blood. Let's go ahead and change to this scene. And I'm going to hold this up so that you can hear and see. Okay, and hopefully that gave me a good prick. So let's see what we got. Yeah, there we are. And we'll start with the Keto Mojo. And then a drop over here for the Contour. Okay, so 84 for the Keto Mojo. And then the Contour says that I'm 82. So pretty close, pretty close. And then, of course, my Dexcom says that I was 95. And my Libre says 79. Okay, so as you know, they can be different. And looks like they're, at least the Libre and the others are kind of keeping in touch with each other. And so now let me grab this strip out. We're going to put a ketone strip in. And let's see, let's get another drop of blood and go ahead and get that started. And of course, like I always do, I'm not going to show you what those are right now because we're going to, I'm going to tease you, get that started, and then we're going to hop over and have our conversation. Okay? All right. And then I'm going to move that off the screen there because sometimes I'll go back to that screen and you guys will see it. Okay. So let's have a conversation, right? So I want to talk a little bit about some things that we should not do during fasting. And here we're talking about foods and dietary things. Now, having said that, during fasting, our fasting really is, we're abstaining from any calories. So we're not really eating during the fast. So what I really should have titled this is what to do prior to fast, or what to avoid prior to fasting. Okay, so we're going to run through this list, and it's some common things and some things that we've been saying, and you're when you hear them, when you see them, you will say, okay, yeah, that makes sense to me why that is the case. And then I have some timelines, right, prior to fasting, what we need to do. So we're going to come back, we're going to do a review of fasting, but this is just as we are preparing for the fast. We've talked about some other things before, but I wanted to just give you a list of some things that we want to avoid as we're getting to the fast and as we are moving to the fast, and things that we may want to do, okay? All right, so number one, we want to avoid high sugary foods. High sugary foods. And we want to do that about 5 days prior to starting a fast. And this is because if you are eating high sugary foods, then you'll get spikes and crashes that can lead to cravings and hunger. So remember, as your blood sugar goes up because of the sugar, the insulin comes out, and the insulin will bring it back down. but it is as you get those fluctuations, right? Rise in blood sugar, drop in blood sugar, rise in blood sugar, drop in blood sugar, that you can get you can get cravings. And then insulin itself produces cravings, right? So it stimulates the appetite. So if you're doing that right up against the time that you're starting to fast, you are going into the fast with cravings, right? Because they don't like automatically magically go away just because you started fasting at a particular time. And we'll see here in a minute those first 6 hours of absorption anyway. Those are the post or the post feeding period. And so your body is still in the process of dealing with what you've been eating before. So one, highly sugary foods, you want to avoid those, and you want to try to do this about 5 days. Now, most of these are going to be 5 days. Some are going to be 3 to 5 days, but we're talking about 5 days to a week prior to getting into a fast that you are dealing with some of these issues and looking at the things that you're eating. Number two, refined carbohydrates. Now this makes sense because it goes right on the heels of the high sugary things, right? So 5 days prior to starting a fast, you want to avoid refined carbohydrates because this helps your body ease into ketosis more effectively during fasting. Now, one of the questions I get is how fast do we get into fasting, or how fast do we go into ketosis? And for the most part, you'll hear in a minute that at 24 hours, the glycogen in the body is essentially gone. But you've heard of people saying they're carbing up. Well, this idea of carbing up has the connotation that there are things that you can do that basically overstuff the body with carbohydrates. And so you may take a little longer to get into ketosis depending on what you've eaten prior to starting the fast. Okay, so once again, refined carbs, you want to minimize those as we are moving towards fasting those last 3 to 5 days of fasting, so that your body can ease into ketosis more effectively. Then you want to avoid highly processed foods. Now, this harkens back to our whole idea about whole foods, right? Yeah, whole foods. Remember, of the things that we can do, being in the whole food arena does a big job in terms of helping us with our metabolic health. So whole foods, you want to avoid those 3 to 5 days, once again, to reduce the inflammation that may occur from those things and to support your digestive system. Remember, inflammation is that process that the body uses to signal that there's something wrong, or to signal the cells that should come and fight, or to get the body ramped up to fight diseases, illnesses, and so forth. If you're eating foods, those highly processed foods, they can produce a system or produce areas where you can have inflammatory issues. And inflammation in the body, right, will cause issues in terms of spikes in blood sugar, cortisol, stress, insulin has to come out, and so we get into this cascade. So avoiding those processed foods leading into the fasting is not just important in terms of keeping the body healthy and safe, but it's important also so that we don't have spikes and that we don't have rise in blood sugars, rise in cortisol, and ultimately rise in insulin, which then gets into the cascade of cravings. Okay? All right. Fried and fatty foods, right? You want to avoid those 3 to 5 days prior to the fast, and this will prevent digestive discomfort. Right? So a lot of people will have gallbladder issues, all other kind of GI issues based on the food that they're eating, and a lot of people have issues with fried fatty food. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people will know that they have an issue, and they will decide that they're going to accept the consequences, if you will, of the GI discomfort, which is great if they've decided to do that. But if they're doing that in the fast, that can set them up for having not so good a fast, and then that has ripple results down the road. Okay, so fried and fatty foods, you want to avoid those 3 to 5 days. Dairy products, particularly if you have issues with dairy, you're lactose intolerant, you have some other issues that are going on, you want to avoid this 3 to 5 days. Once again, this can cause bloating, it can also cause inflammatory processes, and it can disrupt the digestive system. Okay, so 3 to 5 days, you want to avoid those dairy products. High sodium foods, another one. Once again, 3 to 5 days. And the reason for this is when you're eating high sodium, so wherever salt goes, water follows it. So that if you're eating things high in sodium leading up to the fast, then your water, the fluid status can increase, and so you've put on now weight leading into the fast, and this can cause bloating and other issues in the system. Okay, so you want to avoid high sodium foods leading up to the fast. And then, of course, artificial sweeteners. Now, this is a big one because a lot of people use artificial sweeteners for maintaining good blood sugars because they're not drinking and or eating things that have sugar in them. And so this helps with blood sugar. The issue is many artificial sweeteners will make you hungry. Well, not hungry. They will stimulate the appetite. And so because you've eaten artificial sweeteners and you are now in the fast, your appetite is stimulated, and that can have issues for you in the fast itself and set you up for not having a successful fast. The other thing is there's some idea or some thought that it can cause some GI gut issues. Okay? Now, I say that, and I use artificial sweetened tea during my fast. That is what I use as my main hydration in addition to water. Okay, I know that about myself. I know that it can cause cravings, and so I have to manage that effectively during my fast. But that's what I use. But artificial sweeteners, 3 to 5 days. If you know that you have a particular issue with them, then you want to make sure that you are avoiding that as well. Okay. All right. And so that's kind of what do we do prior to the fast in terms of foods. And now we're going to hop into our discussion about fasting, our fasting review. Fasting review, what you need to know. That's what we're going to be talking about here, what you need to know. And as we get into the fast, I always want to break it up into 3 different phases. Preparing for the fast, and we just spent some time talking about preparing for the fast a minute ago. Getting into the fast, getting through the fast, and then, of course, breaking the fast or ending the fast. And each phase is as important as the other. How you start the fast, how you prepare for the fast is just as important as how you get through the fast, which is just as important as how we break the fast. Because at each phase, if we're not careful, we can undo the benefits that we are seeking in terms of fasting. So make sure that you are paying attention to how you prepare for the fast, how you get through the fast, and then, of course, how we break the fast. Okay? All right. And so let's hop back over and let's take a look. And so in terms of our fasting, preparing for the fast, there are 4 pillars or 4 things, 4 important factors that you want to make sure as you're getting right into the fast. So 1, we want to make sure that we are well rested. When I did my check-in at the beginning of the top of the show, we talked about how we were feeling physically. Often people will have physical, mental, or emotional symptoms, and they blame it on the fasting, but it's actually not the fasting that's doing it, it's the fact that they're not well rested. And if you're not well rested, that has ramifications down the road as we're talking about fasting. And if you don't do a good job, you will associate that feeling with fasting. And then the next time you want to fast, the brain will say, no. We remember what that was like the last time. Okay? So not only does it derail you for this current fast, but it also sets you up for failure going into the future. So you want to make sure that you're rested. Number 2, you want to make sure you're hydrated. So hydration is a huge issue. You guys will recall several months ago I did a show where I did a check-in and I was not maintaining good hydration, and that fast for me didn't go well. I was feeling lightheaded, dizzy, a little weak, and so I'm feeling nauseated as well. So you want to make sure that you are doing a good job of hydration as we get into the fast, and you want to begin hydrating 3 to 5 days prior to fasting, right, to make sure that you're getting good fluid status. So not only should we be mindful of our rest and also our hydration, We want to make sure that you are not coming out of or going into a stressful situation. Because remember, stress on the body causes cortisol. Cortisol causes blood sugar to go up, the spikes. Blood sugar spiking causes insulin to come out. And once insulin comes out, then all the ramifications of having elevated insulin, hyperinsulinemia, come. Right? The appetite stimulated, our weight goes up, fatty liver, and on and on and on and on. Okay, so we want to make sure that we are not coming out of or going into a stressful situation. And then we want to make sure that on our non-fasting days, during our eating window, that we are eating nutrient-dense foods, not calorie-dense. Right? So nutrient-dense are those foods that have all the vitamins and minerals and fiber and fluid and so forth. So if you're doing that during your non-fasting days, as you get into fasting, that sets you up for a successful fast. Okay, so preparing for the fast, and then also all the things that we talked about a minute ago in terms of what to avoid leading up to the fast or things that you should and should not do. Okay, so preparing for the fast, very important. And then during the fast itself, I like to break the fast up into 24-hour chunks. Right, the first 24 hours, then 48 hours, then 72, then 96, and so on. But during this review, we're going to actually break it up a little finer than that. We're going to talk about what happens in the fast during the first 0 to 6 hours, and then we'll go from there. So 0 to 6 hours, this is the postprandial phase. The postprandial phase is the phase where the body is still, as you see there, absorbing food. It's breaking it down and getting the nutrients out of it. You're taking up nutrients, you're taking up sugar, you're taking up glucose into the cells, and the digestive system is in the process of doing that job. Right? So glucose levels are very high. I shouldn't say begin. The glucose levels are elevated because the food that you're eating is being broken down, those carbs are being absorbed, and initially those blood sugars are high. When they're high, the insulin also is high because remember, high blood sugar, high insulin. Okay? And then energy levels also will be high because you're getting that ready burst of sugar from the food that you've just eaten. So 0 to 6 hours. Well, let me go back there for a second. 0 to 6 hours. This is where I was talking earlier when we did our what to avoid. Depending on what you're doing, what you've eaten leading up to the fast, during this period, you can have huge, significant spikes in blood sugar. Right? So because you're coming into the fast, and this this state that you're in, right, postprandial phase, all that's being absorbed, and so we get big spikes in glucose if we're not careful, right? So 0 to 6 hours, the postprandial phase. And then 6 to 12 hours, this is the early fasting stage. So now our body is now getting into the idea that food is now starting, we've absorbed it, and those levels are starting to drop, and the body is having to pull out of the liver the glycogen that it's stored there, right? So insulin levels decrease, glucagon levels are increasing because remember, they go in opposite direction. When insulin goes down, glucagon goes up, and vice versa. The glucagon levels increase, and this signals the liver that it's time to release the stored glucose in the glycogen, right? So it's breaking down glycogen, and this is called glycogenolysis. So basically, lysis means breaking. So we got glycogen that's storing sugar in the liver, and now we're going to break that down so we can convert that back into glucose. Got it? Okay. And energy levels now begin to fluctuate because now the highs that we had in terms of glucose, the glucose is starting to go down, and our body is still using it, and it's now saying, okay, I need energy from the liver, and that was going to start fading away here in a little while, and then we're going to start looking for additional sources, right? So this is the early fasting stage. And then the transition to using fat, so 12 to 18 hours. At that point, we start to see significant decrease in the glucose levels as the body is using up the glycogen that's in the liver. So glucose levels continue to go down, prompting the increase in fatty acid release. So now the body's going to be breaking down fat, to release that as fatty acid, to convert that to ketones, and so that we can have a stable source of energy. So the liver starts gluconeogenesis, so that's creating glucose from non-carbohydrate sources, right? Ketones level are low because we haven't ramped that up yet. And then energy may wane. So this is right at that point where some people will feel like their energy levels are going down, because we're beginning now to start to look to shift from burning glucose to burning ketones, fat turning into ketones. And so 18 to 24 hours, right? So 18 to 24 hours. So glycogen stores are nearly gone from the liver. So we've kind of used them up. And autophagy is beginning. So autophagy, remember, is the not liver, but the body's recycling system. It's the body's ability to go out and pick up old, damaged, unused cells and to recreate them in something else. It's kind of like when you put out your recycling, they pick it up, they take it away, and then that shows back up as something new. Same thing happens here with the body. Autophagy is the process of doing that, and that typically starts here at 18 to 24 hours, and it gets ramped up later on. Initial stages of mental clarity, right? So one of the benefits of fasting is mental clarity. So as the body begins using more efficient sources, more stable sources of energy, ketones, then mental clarity increases. We did a show last week, I believe, on we did a show last week on mental clarity and focus. Go back and watch that. And this all has to do in this phase when it starts during the fasting process. And then we got 18 to 24 hours, and then 24 to 30 hours fat adaptation. So the body now is fully looking to burn calories from fat. The glycogen stores have depleted, and we are now using fat. We're burning that, and we're converting that into energy. We're converting that into ketones. So significant increase in ketone production, decrease of reliance on gluconeogenesis for energy, so no glucose. Fat oxidation increases, so we're breaking that down. More fatty acids are converted into ketones, right? So fatty acids, so free fatty acids. Remember that when we are breaking down fat, we get triglycerides. So triglyceride is a combination of three free fatty acids. They're attached to a glycerol backbone. So the fatty acids go to turn into ketones, and the glycerol turns into sugar. That's why you can still have blood sugars that are not zero during fasting, which is why my blood sugar right now is 79. Okay? All right. And let's see. So energy levels. So energy levels stabilize as the body switches to burn more efficient and more stable energy source. It's kind of like that hybrid car. So it goes from burning gas to burning electricity through the battery. So when the gas is gone, which, the electricity is there and it's more stable. Okay. So that's one of the things that happens during the process of fasting. So 24 to 30 hours. And after 30 hours, so we jumped over to breaking the fast. But that's the process that happens during the fasting. During fasting, you still want to make sure that you are maintaining those same things that we did preparing, right? You want to make sure that you are well rested, make sure that you're hydrated, and making sure that you are not in a stressful situation. Now, the calorie versus nutrient dense is not an issue because you're fasting. Okay, one of the benefits of fasting is you don't have to worry about food. Okay, all right, and then so we prepared for the fast, we got through the fast, and then now how do we end the fast? This is just as important as getting through the fast. So how do we end the fast? Breaking the fast, as we call it, is very important. And in breaking the fast, some things that we want to talk about, some tips, and then we'll get into this a little bit more detail. Number one, monitoring blood sugars. I recommend that everybody monitors their blood sugar because you can then tell how different foods, different activities will affect your body. If you're not monitoring, you don't know. So I recommend monitoring. If you're not diabetic, you may not have a prescription for a monitor. You can go to, your local store, and whatever their least expensive monitor is, you can get one. We're going to be doing a show here in a little while where we're evaluating an over-the-counter continuous glucose monitor. Not evaluating, but we're going to do a review of it, basically showing you how it works, what the features are, and just putting that out so that you can see that. Not whether it's good or bad. That's not our function, but just to let you know that it's there and how it works. Okay. And so that I bring that up because that's a space also where you can go get one. You don't need a prescription for it. Right? All right. So monitoring blood sugars. Number 2, you want to have appropriate portion control. This is important because we've done a great job of fasting. Right? We prepared for the fast. We got into the fast. We got through the fast, and we've seen some benefit. We see better blood sugars, insulin sensitivity is improved. We've lost some weight. All of those things are good. And how we break the fast is important because if we're not careful, we end up kind of gorging and we eat food a lot more than we should. And now we have spikes in blood sugar, weight goes on, and we undo some of the things that we've done in the fast itself. So portion control, very good. You want to eat slowly, same idea, right? Give your body a chance to acclimate back to eating, because if you don't, then we end up eating fast and we eat more than we need to, or more than we should. And then avoid sugary processed foods. Goes back to one of our very first points in this discussion today about things to avoid prior to fasting or getting ready for the fast. Right, highly processed. So 5 days prior, avoid sugary foods because they spike the blood sugar, they cause crashes. Same thing here. If you're not careful and you're eating those highly processed, highly sugary foods, then you're going to get those spikes. Insulin's going to come out. Once insulin comes out, ketones go away, and then this appetite is stimulated and weight comes on. Okay, so very important. So those are some tips. And then we want to make sure hydration, right? We talked about hydration, very important. Water, coconut water, unsweetened, herbal teas, all of those are good ways of maintaining hydration following the fast, or when you're breaking the fast. And then proteins. You want to make sure that you are incorporating good proteins into your post-fast meal. That is important because it helps to satiate you, helps you keep you full, helps to decrease those cravings. Okay? And you can use things like eggs, chicken or turkey, tofu, tempeh, for those of you who may be vegetarian/vegan. These are good because the body is able to digest them well. You want to do soft eggs, by the way. Soft scrambled eggs. Don't make them hard because it takes more for the body to digest those. So make sure you have some protein. The other thing is you want to make sure that you have some healthy fats. So things like avocados, nuts, seeds, all of those are good because, once again, they will blunt spikes in blood sugar and they will help you as you are beginning to eat. They help keep you fuller longer, and then we don't get as big absorption of the glucose or carbohydrates. And then broths. You want to make sure you're staying hydrated. One way to do that is with broths. Broths are good for breaking the fast because they're not heavy. They allow your body to be reintroduced to eating again. You can use vegetable broth for those who are vegetarian, even for those who eat meat, by the way. And then bone broth you can use as well. So considerations when breaking the fast, you want to choose foods that help maintain stable glucose levels, right? Once again, we don't want those spikes, while offering nutritional value and that are gentle on the GI tract, right? You want to make sure that you're doing that because when you're fasting, particularly as you do some of the extended fasts, then your GI tract basically kind of calms down, goes to sleep. And when you introduce food, now it has to wake up and all those cells have to begin working, and that can cause GI upset. As we're thinking about the foods, we want to focus on low glycemic index foods, lean protein, healthy fats, and then, of course, you want to make sure that you are hydrated. Okay? Now, we normally talk about breaking the fast, and we end there. We do a 24-hour, but what I'd like to do is actually hop over and do a little bit more in terms of some of the extended fasts that we will see. So I want to hop over and take a look at some of that right now. Let's see where we. There we go. Okay, so we're gonna back up and we're gonna talk a little bit about our hydration. It's not hydration, but 24 hours, which we dealt with, but also let's add some more flavor to that. So 24 hours. Remember we talked about the transition to fat metabolism. So the physical state. So the liver itself right now, the liver's glycogen stores are nearly depleted. The body increases lipolysis. So lipolysis is breaking down. Remember, lysis is breaking down lipo fat. So it's breaking down fat, and that fat, those fat stores are being used at this point to create ketones, which is the energy source that we're going to be using. In terms of our cognitive effect, some people may begin to feel mental clarity. We talked about this between the 18 and 24 hours, right? So mental clarity, and the brain, because the brain utilizes ketones. Some people may have some mild headaches, and feeling of sluggishness can occur. Once again, this is in that transition, and doing a good job of preparing for the fast can help to mitigate some of this. So that's 24 hours. If we move on to 25 hours, we got some mild ketosis. So ketone bodies are being produced, they're being ramped up as the body is making that transition. Energy levels might fluctuate once again as we're making the transition between in earnest now between glycogen, glucose, and with ketones. So now we are fully getting ready to hop into this space. Increased lipolysis, so the body continues to break down more and more fat to convert those to ketones, and continued adaptation to ketones. This is some of the cognitive effects. So now that the ketones are there, the brain and the focus and all the things we talked about, mental clarity. Okay, 24 hours, autophagy is increasing, right? Remember we talked about it beginning in the 18 to 24 hours, and it is in full force, okay? Cellular cleanup, this is the recycling system that the body has. All that now has been ramped up, and it is in full force, and we begin to see some of the benefits of autophagy during this period. 28 hours, we got some hormonal adjustments. Remember, insulin levels have gone down, glucagon levels have gone up. Now we may have some spikes in cortisol and epinephrine initially in that first part of fasting, because fasting is a stress on the body. But then that begins to go away, and we begin to stabilize our hunger and satiety hormones, right? So insulin is gone, so it's no longer affecting the brain in that space. Stabilization of mood and energy as the body becomes more accustomed to fasting, right? So during the first several hours, 24 hours maybe even, people can be cranky, not pleasant, okay? But as the body adapts, then that goes away and that improves. And then 29 hours, now we're deepening into ketosis, okay? So I wanted to spend some time going into some more extensive fasting beyond the 24 hours. We did a 36 hours, so 30 hours, full ketosis is going on. 31 to 36 hours, sustained ketosis and autophagy is now there, right? Everything is now fully, we've changed from gas, as in the hybrid car, to the battery. So we're now burning the battery now in the body, and that's what we're using. 37 to 42 hours, autophagy continues, and the cleanup process. This is where a lot of people will say, if you read the studies, having extended fast improves your immune system, inflammation, cognition, neurodegenerative diseases as we get into some of those longer fasts, because autophagy is in full force, that cellular repair process. So hormone optimization, so levels of cortisol might adjust to lower the stress on the body, right? Continued rise in human growth hormone, and that's where people will say that you'll get more muscle as you're fasting, right? In fact, this is the period where a lot of people say, hey, you should go exercise. Well, It's a whole nother conversation about exercising or fasting workouts, right? Fasting workouts. And then 40, that was 43 to 48 hours. And then we can move on and see other benefits as we get into some of the more extended fasting beyond 48 hours. But here, in terms of cognition, we see peak mental clarity is often reported. The body's reduced focus on digestion allows more energy for cognition and for other physiologic function. So the body's not having to spend this time and the energy in terms of digestion, and so now those energies can go somewhere else, right? So that energy goes somewhere else. Awesome. All right, so let's hop over and let's take a look at my reports, right? So I've got right down below, that's my Dexcom Clarity report. So let's hop over there and let's take a look and see what that's showing. Let's use this one right here. Okay. So you'll see there my average blood sugar is 128, and this is 14 days, 90 days. It says that my glucose management indicator is 6.4. So if I were to get an A1C, well, I would expect that that's what it would be. And then in target 87% of the time, target being 70 to 180. So let's take a look at my daily graphs and see what's been going on. And as I said, we are a little bit over about 50 hours now. Yep. Okay, so started fasting right in here. Blood sugars of 174. 24 hours later, blood sugars 110. 24 hours later, which would be right here, blood sugars of 98. And you saw, it didn't update there, but we're 50 hours in, and my blood sugars. Let's hop over and take a look at. Actually, let's do this one. Yeah, so I'll show this, and then you can still see the flyer for our show. So blood sugars right now 80. This is my Libre, and then of course my Dexcom showing 96. Well, let me do the big one. So 96 for my Dexcom, and then 80 for my Libre. So people will ask, hey, if you've been fasting, why is your blood sugar not lower? And it's not lower because my body still has the ability to create glucose, right? Remember glycerol, which comes from triglycerides. The fatty acids go to turn into ketones, and the glycerol turns into sugar. Okay? All right. So that's where my blood sugars are. And so it'll be interesting to see what that does as we move into the rest of our fast. If you look at the graph at the bottom of this report, bottom of the screen, you'll see that now we were starting right above 100 and now kind of hovering right above 70 or 80, as you see there on the screen. So what do you think at this point my ketones would be? What do you think my ketones are? And so let me hop over. I'm going to pull up my Keto Mojo app. I'm going to get my Keto Mojo monitor, and we'll need to go ahead and turn that on. There. And then let's go ahead and get it synced. We'll pull that data over. So if you think you know, go ahead and pop those in. Put that in the chat. What do you think it is, right? So, all right, there we are. So blood sugar of 84 and ketones of 0.8. Ketones of 0.8. So remember, ketones. When we talk about ketones that are less than 0.5 considered normal. 0.5 to 1.5 considered nutritional ketosis, and then above 1.5 considered therapeutic ketosis. And so right now I'm in the 0.5 to 1.5. In fact, when we talk to people about fasting, particularly if we're saying, okay, we want you to get into ketosis, we want ketones that are above or we want ketones that are 0.5 or higher. If we look at my graphs, the tan line there that you see, those are blood sugars, and then the turquoise line, that is ketones. So as my blood sugars have gone up, right, when we broke the fast last week, blood sugars went up, ketones went down. So tan line up, and the turquoise line went down. And then as I started fasting, blood sugars now are going down, and then ketones are going up. Okay? when let's go back here. So when I started eating after fasting, blood sugars went up, and when blood sugars go up, insulin has to come out. And remember, insulin and ketones can't be in the same space. It's kind of like matter and antimatter, or in those old movies, they tell you if you travel back in time, don't interact with yourself, or if you go forward in time, don't interact with yourself because you can't be in the same space. Same thing here, ketones and glucose or ketones and insulin can't be in the same space. So when blood sugars go up and we get that spike in insulin, then the ketones begin going down. Okay, so 84 glucose and 0.8 is what our ketones are. Love it, love it, love it. All right. So yeah, so if you're out there and you've been fasting, go ahead. If you've been fasting, if you fasted this week, say yes, and put how long you fasted. So yes, and you're gonna put 24 hours. Yes, 36 hours. Yes, 16 hours. Whatever the number is. Remember, we're working our way to be able to fast once a week, and our goal is a 24-hour period. But wherever you are, that's where we want you to start. Wherever you are, we want you to start there. In our last check-in last night, we started talking about my process of reversing diabetes, and I told you about the 25 years in the making, right? So if you've not done so, go ahead and watch the show that we did last night when we did our check-in. I think you'll get a kick out of that. As we move into the rest of this year, we're going to be sharing a lot more about my story and hearing your stories as well, because that is where the rubber is meeting the road. That is where we're getting great success, right? As you've seen in our community, a lot of people are reversing or decreasing their insulin usage, getting off of insulin. They're improving their A1Cs. They're losing weight. They're coming off of other medications. Yeah, that is what's going on. And that's happening right here in this space. And that reminds me, right? I shouldn't say that reminds me. That points now to the space that I want to talk to you about. That is the unlimited potential, unlimited ability that you have to make changes in your health. At your fingertips, within you, you have the ability, you have the power to chart your health destiny. Remember that. And that occurs as we are educating, empowering, and encouraging the Triple E formula for success, as we do here on the show. So, and on the channel. So I educate with the blogs, with the shows, with the podcasts. We empower with the tools that we learn, and we encourage with the community that you are part of, that you are building. So the Triple E formula for success. Remember those things that will derail us, those things, those triggers that will push us off of our eating plan, push us off of our desire to be healthy. They are given by the HEAT model. So habits, emotions, access, and taste. Habits, emotions, access, and taste. Habits are the things that we do out of just routine. We're not hungry, but it's a movie and we're going to eat popcorn. We're hanging out with some friends and we're going to eat this. We are not hungry, but it's lunchtime and we're going to have something, right? So all of those things, all of those reasons are things that push us off of our plan. So habits, emotions, whether we're happy, sad, tired, bored, frustrated, depressed, all of those emotions will push their way through our desire and our decision to eat in a certain way. So make sure that you're taking care of those emotions. And then access. We eat just because things are around. Yeah. So you walk by the kitchen or a coworker's desk, you're not hungry, but you see something on the counter, something in a bowl, something on their desk, and you grab it. Not because you're hungry, but just because it was there. Access. And we eat because of taste. The bliss point is the perfect combination of sugar, salt, and fat. Bliss point. So when you eat that thing, you're like, oh man, I can't just have one. I need more of this. Remember, as we're talking about taste, often we're not chasing the food. We're chasing what the food does for us. We're chasing the calm. We're chasing that feeling. We're chasing that memory of that time we went to that place and ate that thing and we felt that way. So we eat because of habits, emotions, access, and taste. And our call to action to you is join the challenges. Come to the channel. When you watch the shows, don't just watch the shows, but get involved. The challenges we do once a month. Every month we have a challenge. We have a new one coming up here in just a little while as we change months. But join the challenge. They are an opportunity for you to be able to put into practice the things that we're learning. Right? They are tools that you're learning as well. So join the challenges. Number 2, tell your story. If you're having successes, let us know. Are you losing weight? Improve blood sugar, improve blood pressure, off of medication. All of those things are wins. And we want to know, we want to hear, because if you can do it, we can do it as well, right? It encourages us. Also, if you are having challenges, share that as well, because we want to rally around you and we want to let you know that you're not alone, and you can help us know that we're not alone, right? It's nothing like feeling like you're alone in a space, but this community is amazing for rallying around each other. And then invite a friend. You can be a voice for change in your community, whether it's your church or home or work or doctor's office, wherever you are. You can be a voice of change. Say to people, hey, let's go watch this show together. Send them a link. Say, let's do this together. Okay? You can be a voice for change. And then remember our pillars for reversing diabetes: decrease insulin, suppress the appetite, and reduce sugar. We are in the process of talking through those. We are on the 3rd pillar, that is reducing sugar, and we have done the 3rd episode in that series, right? So make sure you come on back, and we will be looking at that as we move through those pillars: decreasing insulin, suppress appetite, and reducing sugar. Yeah. That's how we do it, y'all. That's how we do it here on Dwain Woode MD. As I always say, I'm excited to be here in this space with you. Always glad when I can come through, when we can learn something together. Don't forget that on Sunday we have our This Week in Review. Make sure that you join us. It starts at 6 a.m. Central right here on the channel. And you will see that also on other social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitch, right? So all those places you can find it. Dwain Woode MD. Make sure you watch that This Week in Review. As always, y'all, I say this is Dr. Dwain Woode. That's Wood with an E. The E stands for endocrinology. Here on the channel, I educate, I empower, and I encourage you to take charge of your health in your life, avoid complications, and go to the next level. And in this year, new you. Good night, everybody. We'll see you on Sunday at This Week in Review. Bye-bye. Yeah, here we go. Bye.